What if leaving every conversation, someone feels honored and loved and valued?
Wow.
And that's more important with them agreeing on the issues, even if they're wrong. I mean, even if it's a biblical issue, how about if we love them across that line?
Wow.
Instead of fighting them on the issues.
Welcome to this episode of the Healthy Homes Podcast. We've got Eric and Becky Watt here with us, joining us in Minneapolis from Virginia. Yep. So glad you guys are with us. It's been an amazing weekend. We've been hanging out as a family, and Eric shared a word at Everyday yesterday at services, and we're excited to connect with you to talk about family and healthy homes and how we carry our hearts. And so I just want to give like a little bit of an intro. I know that you guys started or have been a part of Run Ministries for many years. Yes. And Run Ministries has just a reach into some of the most difficult places to bring Jesus throughout the world. And as you guys have led Run, there's been fruitfulness that's hockey sticked, over the last decade or so. And it hasn't been something where it's just been an easy journey. But you've been loyal and faithful to the Lord. And so we're really excited to just sit with you, connect, get wisdom from you. But I first want to just ask how you guys met as a young couple. We're going to start there. And you don't have to share your full love story, but would love the context of how your love story began. And so you got to give us a little bit of insight in how the love was in the air and where that happened.
The shortest version, we were walking down the street in Washington, D.C. She captured my eyes and my heart. I got down on my knees. I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and we've been happily ever after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Is that how you remember the story,
Not at all.
Becky?
Not at all. Yeah. But that's such a great picture. I think some relationships happen in a lot of cohesion and unity, and ours could not have been more different.
Wow.
So I was an intern working on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. For my congressman from the state where I was living at the time.
Okay.
And his father happened to be a cabinet official with that particular administration.
Okay.
And his father's role was over one of the departments of our government, and my congressman was his father's arch rival.
Uh-oh.
So that'll set up a little tension for you.
Yeah.
So the accuracy of Eric's depiction is that we did meet walking down the street. We had met before. We'd known each other briefly in high school. I moved out of the same neighborhood. His family moved in. We had some mutual friends. But when we met each other on that street, he asked where I worked. And I thought, I am not about to tell him.
Oh, because you knew that his dad worked for within the presidential cabinet.
Yes, and we had cartoons of his father on the office walls of our congressional office.
Uh-oh.
So I went back to my office after we had a quick meeting on the street, and I said, you guys will never believe who I just bumped into. And in the middle of this drama, he walks in the door because this is classic Eric. He's fearless. And I thought, what in the world are you doing here? You just walked into the hornet's nest.
Oh my goodness.
And he was so diplomatic and all of that. So that's actually how we met.
Okay.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we were both very passionate people, both driven by purpose, and both from Christian homes, but really different perspectives.
Okay.
And so part of our learning to come together was learning how to honor those different perspectives.
Wow.
And we had a lot of disagreements. We were...
Because there was Republican, Democrat.
Yes.
That was, okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We had a lot of disagreements about all kinds of things. I mean, not just politics, but how do you do life and where do you want to live? And I was from a political family, wanted to be a missionary, and she grew up on the mission field, and wanted to be in politics. And so I used to say things like, you
no.
can't commute from Zimbabwe. Like, this isn't going to work.
Wow.
Because there was a long distance. It wasn't like, oh, this is perfect. I mean, there was just a big distance between us.
Wow. So you guys felt at the time when you met, for sure there was differences politically, but there's even these questions around assignment.
True. Well said.
Man, we feel called to follow Jesus wherever. God's built us in a certain way, but you're feeling the nations, you're feeling not the nations.
Right.
And how did you come to unity together? You know, it's just because he was so handsome that you're like, I'm going to lay it all down.
No. It should have maybe gone a little smoother than it did. You know, I just sensed that God had a calling on my life. And I grew up one of 4 sisters. We had a fantastic dad who empowered us as women. And so we knew that the fulfillment of our calling was something God ordained, God designed, and not something that just happened out of who I married.
Wow.
So there was a lot of wrestling with how do I get to spend my life with somebody who has so much character. I valued the qualities that I saw in him, and yet it caused a fork in the road. It was going to cause a choice to be made. So we actually did break up after having had a relationship.
Can I jump in just for a second? It's not like we broke up because we didn't like each other.
No.
We just were honest enough. Josh, I would say I would add to some of those tensions. We grew up from different perspectives on how we practiced our faith. So I came from a very charismatic kind of place. And she was from a much more traditional evangelical church. So even what happens when you are in a community and how do you worship together? All of those things were different for us.
Wow.
And so the breakup came not out of a dislike or disagreement, but with a reckoning that we're really different. And we have to honor what God's called us each to.
Wow.
And that's more important than our love for each other. And so
Your calling to God was more important than each other.
Yes.
Wow, that's very
Pre-marriage.
different. Yeah, pre-marriage. Well, that's very different than I think what we see on TV. You know, that God and our calling before him and what he's invited us into is actually superseding the love story. That's different.
Now we find ourselves in the throes of parenting a young adult woman who's single, who has a really strong call in her life, so evidently. And she would love to be married. We'd love her to be married. But we don't want anyone messing with the call of God on her life. That is so important to her and to us. Marriage is a wonderful, amazing thing. We've been married 42 years. My parents just celebrated their 70th last summer.
Wow.
And I think I mentioned, I think it's 0.1% of couples make it to 70 years. So that's some pretty amazing heritage we were handed and a complete leg up, we have to say. We both came from marriages where our moms and dads love each other.
Wow.
His father's now in heaven. But we came to marriage with so much support from what we saw modeled, which I know is not everybody's story.
Right.
But I also love in my parents' story, they both came from broken homes in an era when that wasn't customary, when that wasn't common, a small town in the Midwest. And when they got engaged, I remember my dad telling me that he said to my mom, "You're going to have to show me how to be a godly husband because I've never seen one in action." And my mom said similarly to my dad. And as I said, this summer they'll celebrate their 71st anniversary.
Wow.
So can you redeem the story? Absolutely.
Wow. I love that you're saying that. I think that's even a word for somebody that's listening where you're going, I'm coming from a broken home. I don't really have anything to look at. And if you've got humility on you, like your dad, that goes, I don't know how, I need to learn. You got to help me out.
Yeah.
That legacy can result in 70 years of marriage.
Yeah.
It can result in generational healthy marriages.
Yep.
And so for whoever's listening, you can build that new legacy. You can build that new legacy with humility on you and obedience to Jesus. Okay, so you guys broke up and you're not mad at each other, but you're just honest. We got it. This doesn't work. And then what happened? How did that shift?
Yeah, I would say to us, God's call and his assignment on our lives is sacred. And so is marriage. So marriage is a sacred thing. And if God is going to be in the center of it, then to make sure we get it right. And at the same time, I was crazy in love with Becky. And so I think it was almost 4 months. Didn't talk, didn't call, didn't write letters. This was a long time ago before the internet, okay? So no emails were possible. I just couldn't take it. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, let's go.
That's sort of how it happened, yeah.
Yeah, and I just knew I needed to yield something inside of me. And it actually took several years for me to figure out strong-arming someone toward your purpose is not the way that God designed. Wow. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
It's more about yielding and surrender. And I'm much more naturally gifted at strong-arming.
Wow.
And that's not healthy. So I think part of this process was really for me to learn that about myself and to put those little guardrails and checks like, oh, you're strong-arming right now. You need to back off from that. So anyway, yeah, it came down to I called and we just got to figure out how to work this out.
Yeah.
So we had lots of conversations. We dated for 3 years from the time that we met and engaged. And we got married. And most of our difficult disagreements all happened before we got married.
Okay.
Yeah. I would add to that I felt like I was supposed to pursue politics. We jokingly say we were just born in the wrong families. You know, I'm the missionary kid and I want to be in politics, and he's the political family and he wants to be in missions. There was just a mix-up somewhere.
Yeah, right.
That could have been so much smoother. But I knew that he esteemed and valued what he saw God had put on my heart from the time I was a little girl. And so though he didn't understand it initially, he didn't stand in the way. And so I grew in my respect for him when 7 years into being married, we had this tough conversation one day. And he said, so you still want to go to law school? You still want to pursue that? We'd already started to do missions together. I said, yeah, I do. And then he said, let's do it. So I thought, wow, I can really feel loved and supported and protected by a guy who wants to see me fulfill the mission he knows God put on my heart. So I did start law school.
Okay.
And I underlined my books in pencil because I just had this feeling we don't know where this is going to go. And at the same time, Eric had an opportunity to travel overseas and speak somewhere and came back and said, you know, they've opened up a door for us to be based in the nations. What do you think? And it just felt like, yeah, let's do it.
Wow.
I'd stepped into what I thought I wanted to do. Law school really wasn't all that great. I didn't mind being a dropout, erased my underlines, sold my books back at the bookstore. Off we went to Southeast Asia. And I've never looked back because I've never had to regret that I didn't get to try.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we were a team. And I've always felt like we've been a team.
Wow.
And though we have unique and distinct callings, they are parallel. So when he's doing his assignment, I feel like we're on mission together. And he affirms me doing the thing that God uniquely calls me to do. So there's not a competition. There's not a, can't think of the right word, but like
resentment.
Resentment, thank you. Yeah, we just feel so privileged that we get to serve the Lord together, but not identically. And that's unusual. Not everybody's story's like that. It just is the way ours turned out.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. So can we talk about politics just a little bit? Because I think that is very interesting, that there's Republican and Democrat families here.
Yes.
And then, of course, you were both having those perspectives going into the 3 years of dating.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that there's so many people right now in this polarized political culture that we live in. I think that one of the things that can happen is that bleeds into family systems and can really wreak havoc on Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas around the Christmas, dinner table. Yeah. So what is the counsel that you guys would provide when you as a couple had to work through your differences politically, but also for families where, and I'm specifically, our audience are people that love Jesus. And so they're going in with I've got a kingdom mindset. How do I approach family settings when there's really strong perspectives politically? Yeah. How do I carry my heart? How do I hold that?
Good question.
Speak to that.
Yeah, such a good question.
We'll start with you, Becky, because you are called to politics.
Yeah, or was. Looking back, it's unbelievable how his parents embraced me. I was a lowly college intern working for the opposition, and his parents represented Christ in a way that just undermined everything I knew about him through media. All of the biases I should have come to in that relationship. So we'd play tennis together with his dad. This is a guy who's driven around DC with the detail, his security detail, and he's at the White House, and he's a big shot. And, he shouldn't probably be having me hang out. And we'd pick berries together, and we just got to do life like normal people. And his love for the Lord and his mom's love for the Lord was extremely genuine and tangible. Wow. So I was seen as a person.
Yeah.
And that messed with my politics because I couldn't broadly brush you and categorize you and box you because I saw a heart. And it was an interesting initial summer because I'd spend time with the communities that Eric was involved with, and I had some presumptions about them, and I came with presumptions about my side of the aisle too. But watching people put Jesus first, before their views, is something that can help us take down the barrier walls. So I find now our families still have different opinions. I love that our parents became very good friends with deep mutual respect.
Wow.
Because there was a time in our culture where you could differ greatly and still have respect. And that's the thing I would love to see us be able to regain.
Wow. Because
there ought to be ways that we can communicate our differences and it not become personal and mudslinging and critical.
Yep.
That's a high bar that we could learn to appreciate and value each other and see each other as Christ does, apart from our positions on certain things. And we shouldn't lead with our positions on things. Why don't we lead with the more important things?
Wow.
What's God doing in your life? Wow. Where have you seen God at work today? Yeah. Where have you been used of the Lord? And you can come to more common ground so readily when you take off, let's see what so-and-so said, or, and just dial it down.
Yep. So you would suggest when we're in family settings, let's put politics and those topics kind of on the shelf and just prioritize relationship, other conversations where we can feel more human apart from positions in those family settings. Yeah. And kind of because it's such a hot topic, let's just try to change conversations. And that'd be a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and probably like everybody's family. Today in my family, there is great diversity with passion.
Okay, with
across
passion.
The spectrum.
Yes.
Great diversity with passion. And it's finding the things that we all can concur on. That's doable, possible, and really connects us. what do we agree on? What's wrong with the world that we all can see that's not okay?
Yep.
What's right with the world that we all can agree on? That's great.
Yep.
Let's go for that.
Totally. Yep. Love that.
Can I jump in?
Please.
I would say, looking back, just to piggyback on that today's world, as compared to when we were in our 20s and 30s, which is a long time ago, today's world is much more difficult to navigate. Mm-hmm. It seems like people are leading with issues instead of valuing relationships above the issues. Mm-hmm. And I think what we brought to our marriage was a heritage from our families, that the Word of God and our relationship with Jesus Christ is absolutely paramount. Mm-hmm. And we should enter into those difficult moments not trying to be right, but trying to learn. Mm-hmm. So what can I learn from another person whose perspective is different? How can I be a better person? How can I appreciate their view? How can I understand them a little better? So going into these discussions, to me, it's not avoiding it. It's just being willing to listen through it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I had someone who helped me in a lot of different areas in life. I was a lead pastor in a church, and he was a member. So, at some time he told me, one of his comments to me was, "Eric, I'm not sure you understand about faith. Can I teach you?" Sure. And another time he came up to me and he said, "Eric, I just want to just consider this. Sometimes being right is not right."
Wow.
There's something more valuable than being right on the issues. And I really had to grapple with that.
Wow.
What if honoring other people is more important than being right?
Wow.
I've tested that with different people, and it makes people nervous because they think, well, what if that person agrees with me right now? Look, we have the rest of our lives. What if leaving every conversation, someone feels honored and loved and valued?
Wow.
And that's more important with them agreeing on the issues, even if they're wrong. I mean, even if it's a biblical issue upon which I can't cross this line. Okay, well, how about if we love them across that line instead of fighting them on the issues?
Wow.
But that's been a journey for us. I'm not saying that I had that down, but you're walking into a different family, and you're going to learn to love everybody, and you're going to be in with the next 50 years. It's not like you can avoid the hot topics, so how do you learn your way through it?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that, not avoiding those hot topics, because I think that is really easy when it feels like a hot stove.
Yeah.
And that's what my knee-jerk reaction is. Okay, let's talk about the weather and let's talk about this and that. And then, or if I'm not avoiding, then it goes right into, well, I've got some ideas formed. Let me help you see where you're flawed in your perspective and your sources. And those sources are actually feeding you these ideas that are actually flawed. And let me convince you. And then, Eric, you're kind of smashing both of those things with wisdom that is, let's actually not listen to be convinced.
Yeah.
Or let's not listen so that we can convince. Mm-hmm. Let's actually seek to understand so that we get to know them as people and how they got to those conclusions, how they found that perspective. And I think that breaks my brain a little bit because it feels so easy to go, no, there is a right and a wrong. And you guys entered into your relationship feeling very much so there's a right and a wrong way to see these perspectives. But instead, you've actually chosen to go, we want to know each other and understand each other. And I think that our families need that more and more and more.
I want to jump in because even as you're saying that, which is really good, a memory is coming to my mind.
Okay.
And I'm with her family and her siblings and their spouses, and it's a big gathering, okay? And I'm watching two other people have a conversation on politics where there's a lot of conviction, diversity, and passion. And I'm watching how one person is feeling devalued. And I realized I want to value people, and I want people to feel more valued by the Lord. And it was like a mirror at that moment, because I thought, how many times in an effort to be right have I actually devalued another person?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to go in and value people.
Wow.
And so it's been a journey for me. I do like to be right.
Yeah.
So it's been hard to say, oh, that's maybe not the most important thing.
Right.
There's an author that we like, Bob Goff, and I think he says it like this. It could be that I don't see it all. It could be that I'm not right about it all.
Wow.
So when I leave the conversation, if I go into it like that, maybe I'm not right about it all. Maybe there's something I don't know. Did that person leave feeling loved?
Wow.
I would say of the two of us, we've actually blended our values and ideas. Values and ideas. So we're a conglomeration now, and we ask each other a lot, do you think we see this right? We don't always agree. We're not on the same page about everything, which I think is okay.
Yeah.
We're two totally separate people. On the essentials, yes. But on other things, we have differences. But there has to be room in our relationship, as with all relationships, for that to be okay.
Yeah.
We're all growing. I don't know that I know I see in part.
Yep.
I know I don't see the whole picture. And I may feel differently about this later.
Yes.
So if I can at least differ with you and not have you feel wronged by my response, then that's a win. Right?
So good. Okay, so I want to talk about generations. And I think that what the enemy is really good at is dividing generations and pitting generations against each other and seeing see, they don't get it. And I think that's very youthful. That's what usually the younger generation does. They look back at the older generation and go, see, we know better now, right? And then the older generation goes, wow, they need to learn. And there's oftentimes this give and a push from generation to generation. But I think God has a different story. God has a different plan, that he wants things passed down to generation. He wants stories passed down. He wants the generations to look at each other and learn from each other. And so I'd love for you guys, I mean, even as you're talking about your parents and the legacy, the heritage of your parents. And I know that there's so many that are listening that maybe don't have the heritage, don't have the legacy that you guys have, or that Katie and I have. And so I would love for you to just speak to, the learning across generations and what you found, what insight you've kind of gained as generations are interacting with each other. What do you feel like is important for us to be aware of and know?
I think, Josh, we're at a really unique stage at the moment. I got a text message from my mom, who's in her late 80s, that she just finished reading the memoirs of her father. And she also, we talked to our son last night, and she just sent a text message to her great-grandsons for his birthday. So there are so many generations that we can learn from. And I love the idea of being a learner. And so everyone has a different perspective, and everyone meets an incident or a circumstance from a different value proposition. And the only way we're going to see it is if we gain the perspective of other people.
Wow.
And so to me, the idea at this moment is, it's not so much can I share what I've learned, but can I learn enough that I can have something to share?
Wow.
So who am I going to learn that from? And I need to learn it from the generations.
Wow.
I need to learn it from everybody. You actually said something to me 2 days ago. And so in my prayer time this morning, I was saying to the Lord, okay, I was with Josh. You speak through Josh. He was talking to me as a friend. He said something to me. I need to reckon with the wisdom that you gave him. And I need to become better by listening to him. So I think, from the get-go, the generations working together, it's about becoming more like Christ and learning from each other.
Wow.
I think we're so privileged in a multi-generational society.
Wow.
To learn from those different generations.
Wow. It was very interesting last night. Eric, you preached at Every Day. It was the 2:30 service that you preached at. And then there was a little bit of a window, not a very long window because ministry time went very long, but our 15-year-old, one of our 15-year-old daughters came into the room, and we were, eating, drinking, eating some snacks and just getting refreshments. And Eric, you did something. You asked my 15-year-old daughter, what should I change in my message? And as a father, I'm going, is Ollie going to pass, or I just said her name, is Ollie going to pass the test? To go, no, the message was perfect, and actually walk in honor and say, I wouldn't change a thing. And she passed it with flying color. It was amazing. She just killed it and said that, And I was just, as a proud dad, yes, you did it. And I didn't show that to you guys, but that's what I was thinking. But as I'm hearing you talk, you weren't just testing Ollie to see if she was actually going to carry honor and say, no, don't change a thing. You were actually trying to learn from a younger generation because there's a different audience from a different generation that's actually in the room. So you're going, I need to know from your perspective, how are you receiving the message? Because I actually want to grow. And I think that is very uncommon for somebody in the older generation to go, I need to learn. How are you seeing things? And I thought that's basically you're walking out what you just said. And I just want to honor you for that.
I'd like to jump in and say that he had told me before that what he appreciates about the interim time between the two services is that you get feedback from various generations. So he intentionally wants to seek out what the various perspectives are.
Wow.
And I think you said yesterday, what made sense, what didn't. So I'm sad to hear that she didn't actually maybe think that. She just was being honoring, like, whoa, that was cool.
I think she thought that.
Okay,
I think she
I'm
thought
just
that
joking.
for sure. That's hilarious.
But one thing I would just say to you, Eric, is I love that you are a constant learner. And that's maybe one of the misses older generation people do as well. I've learned all this and I've got all this experience. But if you're not keeping pace, you don't even speak the same language. You're not bridging. You're just antiquated. So if you're not a constant learner, it's hard probably for a younger generation to say, but I can't even understand you. And you don't, and you haven't made any effort to understand me.
Wow. Wow.
So that's something that I would hope our generation and older would continue to do. And I've got a lot to learn from you that way because you're so intentional about continuing to be a learner.
Wow.
Across the spectrum about everything.
Yes.
And as I touched on a little bit earlier, I think something that we have lost in our culture, and I don't know who it is that let it slip, but the ability to have respectful dialogue with one another. We've all blamed social media because you can have these impersonal encounters and you don't have to face. Maybe that's partly to blame, but it's surely broader than that. I just want to see every single person that I interact with through the lens of Christ. They matter. They're on this planet for a purpose. They have something to offer that I don't have. I'm incomplete without their voice and their presence. And if I interact with people like that in person or on any platform, then we've just elevated our whole social order.
Yes.
Because we're not boxing people into various places. So I would love us to be able to restore that.
Yes.
Back again when his father was, in a prominent place in politics in our country, people would refer to each other with respect by title. You don't have to love the person, but because they hold that title, there's a respect, be it pastor or teacher. You know, we've all heard about a lot of things changing in the classroom. Teacher held just inherent value. And I would like to see that restored. So we honor the effort people made to get to where they are in order to be, hopefully, a servant. If their mindset is to be a servant, then
yes,
we all want to learn from that.
Yes, so good. When you, from your guys' decades of experience, look to the younger generation and you go, man, if we are going to provide counsel, you know, you're articulating as part of the boomer generation, we're actually trying to learn from younger generations. Well, as millennials, as Gen Z, Gen Alpha, we want to learn from the older generation. We want to learn from your generation. What are you kind of pinpointing and looking at this younger generation going, man, I think Gen Z needs to know this. I think the millennials need to know this. I think the young 20-somethings, 30-somethings, if they just knew this, it would avoid a lot of issues, a lot of problems that they maybe would get to avoid that we unfortunately didn't.
Well, you know, I walked 20 miles to school barefoot, uphill both ways in the snow, 12 months a year. I think there's a tendency to project method and to project patterns and not transferable principles. So when you look at somebody who is in the middle of a crisis, it's not necessarily relatable. So when I was 30, which is 34 years ago, I don't remember what calendar year that is at the moment, but there were no iPhones, there was no internet, there was no social media, there wasn't digital dashboards in cars. When I was born, the date of my birth is closer to World War I than it is to today. When you stop to think about, you wonder, well, would anybody ask me any question? So when I would speak to a younger person, what I went through, not sure it's really relatable. What I learned, the mistakes I made, the problems, and how I solved them, it seems like those transferable principles are maybe what should be focused on, not, well, I did it this way. You know, we didn't even have calculators as a little kid. I can remember in elementary school, this just shows you how old I am. We had a drill where we had we had a drill where we had to hide under the desk at a bomb raid in case the Russians bombed. And I can remember asking my teacher, how strong is the desk? Like, why are they going to drop a bomb on our school? And this desk must be really powerful.
Yeah,
it's like, what difference does it make? So when you think of somebody in elementary school going through that, there's not much that's relatable to somebody going to elementary school right now. So I can talk about what I've learned. I can talk about my mistakes. I can talk about what God has taught me along the way. Those have to be values and principles. So anyway, that's where I would start. But I also want to learn, like, how are you navigating this world? Your world is so complex, and it's so, you know, I don't mean to project that I'm like a caveman or anything. I do, try to keep up. But I'm not sure how much we have really passed on that's helpful.
Sure. Yep.
And so I think that's part of being settled in who you are, is to be able to say, we have said to our kids a number of times, we want to apologize for the world that we've handed you.
Definitely. Yeah. We did not grow up in an era of terror. Even the word scared me as a child. And now it's so commonplace. So I can't imagine not knowing anything different. And so we do apologize to young people all the time and try to say, it won't always be like this. Because we came from an era of hope, of possibility, of dreaming, because we didn't know the imminent danger that I think this culture and this time so have to coexist in. But I think maybe 2 antidotes to it are, number 1, don't go it alone. And because we didn't have ways to isolate as readily as we do now with devices, we had to actually have connection. And there's power in that. And that's why the enemy doesn't want us to have that.
Wow.
Because when we get out of self and can engage with somebody else and figure out you're going through that too, and I need to know that I'm not the only person, there's power.
Wow.
There's comfort. There's mission. There's purpose. So I'd say let's figure out a way to swim upstream and not allow the disconnection.
Wow.
Let's go after real relationships. The second thing I would say is that service is everything. Jesus told us that. That's why our lives are so meaningful when we get out of our head, out of our internal spiraling. We've got to reclaim service.
Wow.
Because that's what gives us value. That's what gives us hope. That's what gives us connection in ways we wouldn't have had before. So how do we make it about others?
Can
That
I
is
say
so
one thing?
countercultural.
Yeah. Can I just say something? Because what you said is so true. I'm sitting here thinking, I love my wife. She's so amazing when she says this. So I think if I were to maybe give a tip, I would say that in our generation, we were never taught that we had to be emotionally healthy before we served. We were taught that we would find health when we served.
Wow.
And I think there is a school of teaching that somehow at its very core says I need to self-improve a bit more before I can help another person. And the way that I have in my life learned to become more like Jesus is by helping other people first.
Wow.
And people were kind enough to us to give us space to learn and to serve before we had it together.
Wow.
And so there's a leadership lesson in that, because we need to make space for people like us who aren't perfect. How do we serve? And then there's also a place for volunteerism and serving, where I don't have to be uber qualified. I could just actually give of my time in whatever simple way and be with people that are less fortunate than me, not because I'm better, but just because the origin of their circumstances were so much more difficult than mine. And I can learn from them if I serve them.
Wow.
And so I think part of that goes together. Then you're meeting people from different parts of life and different perspectives and different generations. But I don't have to be healthy to begin. I can find health by beginning.
Wow.
You know, this is a random story that just came to mind, and I don't know the genesis of it other than in college. I worked off campus at a little office, and people that were unhoused lived in the entry area to this building. So because I was back and forth all the time, got to know people, got to know names, and befriended one man in particular. So at Christmas time, another friend of ours from our church, this is college, that friend had also met somebody who was unhoused. And we said, hey, why don't we do like a little Christmas event with my friend and your friend? The 4 of us will go do something. So we took them to see Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, which I hadn't thought a whole lot about the opening scene, which is all about marginalized people, just like they were. So we had a designated pickup time and picked them up, and I didn't even recognize my friend John because I'd never seen him without a baseball cap, and I think he'd gone to Salvation Army and found a suit. I'd never seen him dressed like that. And then my friend Dana also brought his friend, and we first had dinner. Dana made this lovely dinner. He was an older person who could open up his home and had dinner. We gave him gifts. What do you give somebody who's unhoused for Christmas? We were thinking of things that were portable, things that were practical. And then we went to the play. Well, that night, my parents and a bunch of elders from their church and were going to the play the same night. We had seats toward the back of the whole theater, and I could see people that I knew way up front. And then it opened up with Christmas carols singing, and that particular production had the unhoused and the marginalized people on the stage in costume who looked just like our friends, who started belting out Christmas songs. And I was mortified that we're in this fancy place there. But then I thought, wow, this is what it feels like to come in from outside to a place where you don't know all the rules and you just get to be like everybody else. And then we had a beautiful night. And as it ended, we dropped them back off on the corners where they lived. Dana's friend actually lived in an abandoned house. But it was a chance to get out of my neighborhood, out of myself, out of my tidy little world, and just befriend some people that were really different.
The serving and the coming out of isolation is something that is like an epidemic that's happening for the younger generation. So I think you both speaking to that is the wisdom of not just experience, but wisdom of the Spirit. And I think that that is what the younger generation is longing for. And I think that especially in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, there is a hunger to go, I don't want to be in isolation. I am shutting off the social media. I am drawing closer. And I think that what can happen is for the younger generation going, I just want to like have friends and I want to be connected. But I think that there's the question of how do I experience connection? And I think as you guys are talking, it's actually a two-part solution to the isolation is what's the context of coming out of your isolation? The context is through serving together, serving those that are different, serving those that, serving the Lord together is actually the key to coming out of the isolation that our generation is experiencing, and that shared experience that is actually the key to experiencing what God has for us relationally. So I think it's so profound what you guys are saying. It's really powerful.